So we have already calculated mean deviations for ungrouped data. Now, mean deviations for group data. Mean deviations for grouped data. Grouped data. So what you are going to do is that አሁን ምንድን ነው የምታደርጉት? ሚን ዲቪዥን ፎር አንግሩፕ ዳታ ስንሰራ ምንድን ነው ያደረግነው? ከእያንዳንዱ ዳታ ላይ ሚን ቀንሰናል፣ ከእያንዳንዱ ዳታ ላይ ሚዲያን ቀንሰናል፣ ከእያንዳንዱ ዳታ ላይ ሞድ ቀንሰን ከዛ አብሶሉት ቫልዩ ውስጥ አስገብተን then we take the average of that. That means we take the division of this value by the number of the data. አሁን ምንድን ነው የምናደርገው? በእያንዳንዱ since the data is grouped, since the data is arranged in a frequency distribution containing the class boundaries, the class mark, and the cumulative frequency. So አሁን ምንድነው የምናደርገው? አሁን ከእያንዳንዱ ዳታ ላይ ነበር ሚን ሞድ እና ሚዲያን የቀነስነው። አሁን እናደርጋለን ክላስ ማርክ እንፈልግና ስለዚህ እያንዳንዱ ዳታ ኤክስ የነበረውን ኤክስ አይ በምን እንተካዋለን? በክላስ ማርክ። ስለዚህ ከክላስ ማርክ ላይ ሚን፣ ከክላስ ማርክ ላይ ሚዲያን፣ ከክላስ ማርክ ላይ ሞድ ቀንሰን የዛ አቬሬጅ እንወስዳለን ማለት ነው። ልብ አድርጉ። አሁን ፎርሙላ ፎር ሚን ሞድ ኤንድ ሚዲያን ፎር ግሩፕ ዳታ we have already discussed in grade 11. So what you are going to do is that you just replace this xi, you just replace it by what? By the class marks, right? The class marks after, of course, arranging the data in a frequency distribution containing the class boundary, the class mark, and the cumulative frequency. So the class marks, which is of course denoted by XCI blended. So let's say XCI ማለት the class mark of each of the classes. Class mark means nothing upper class limit plus lower class limit divided by what? So class mark ማለት ምን ማለት ነው? The class mark means what? The class mark of each class is what? The upper class limit plus the lower class limit divided by what? 2 ማለት ነው። upper class limit ሲደመር lower class limit ለማን እናካፍላለን? ለሁለት እናካፍልና የምናገኘው ዋጋ what you call it is the class mark, which is the average of the upper class limit and the lower class limit. So remember this. አሁን ምን ማለት ነው? So mean deviation about the mean. Mean deviation about the mean, or sometimes you might write this like this. So mean deviation about the mean is what? The frequencies times absolute value of አሁን ቅድም ምንድን ነበር ያደረግነው? For ungrouped data xi ነበር። አሁን xi, that means the class mark of the ith class ማለት the class mark of what? The ith class የእያንዳንዱ class mark minus what? The mean ማለት so which is divided by what? The sum of the frequencies. That means the number of data. Similarly, mean deviation about the median is given by what? So which is summation of, which is fi, of course, so absolute value of our xci nominal. The xci number, so xci minus the median, of course, divided by what? Summation of the frequencies. And similarly, the mean deviation about the mode is given by what? Or እንደዚህ ማለት ትችላላችሁ is given by summation of fi times absolute value of so xi class marks of each of the classes minus what? The mode over what? Summation of the fi ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ mean deviation about the mean on from the mean ከሆነ ከእያንዳንዱ ክላስ ማርክ ላይ ምን about the median ከሆነ ከእያንዳንዱ ክላስ ማርክ ላይ ሚዲያን እንቀንሳለን። about the mode ከሆነ ደግሞ ከእያንዳንዱ ክላስ ማርክ ላይ ምን እንቀንሳለን? ሞድ እንቀንሳለን። ስለዚህ አንድ ኤግዛምፕል እንወስዳና ለሶስቱንም እንሰራለን። እንደነገርኳችሁ since my blackboard is too small blackboard ትንሽ ስለሆነ ረጅም ዳታ ከወሰድኩ ለካልኩሌሽኑ ቦታ አይበቃኝ። ስለዚህ አጫጭር ሰንጠረዥ ወስድና አጫጭር ዳታዎችን ወስድና አንድ ግሩፕ ፍሪኩዌንሲ ዲስትሪቢዩሽን ወስድና then ለሶስቱም እንሰራ። So let's do example. Well, a very short example. Find the mean deviation about the mean deviation about the median, of course, and the mean deviation about the mode for the following data. So let's consider the test of my students, which is out of 20. Okay. Suppose this is X and this is their frequency. Say those students scoring 5 up to 10 is say 4 students. Those students scoring 10 up to 50 is say for example 10 students. And those scoring 15 up to 20 is of course one student has got 20 out of 20. So this way of course they are 3. So suppose this group data is given. That is the test of my students out of 20. Now look, students scoring 5 up to 10 are 4. Students scoring 10 up to 15 are 10. And students scoring 15 up to 20 are 3. Now, so we are going on here group data. So let's imagine class mark. How many ያስፈልገናል ልባሉ ክላስ ማርክ ያስፈልገናል ሞድ ያስፈልገናል ሚዲያን ያስፈልገናል ሚን ያስፈልገናል ኮሙሌቲቭ ፍሪኩዌንሲ እናደርጋለን ኦኬ ሶ ሉክ ሶ ናው ሉክ ሂር አሁን ሰንጠረዡ ወደዚህ እናሰፋዋለን ማለት ሂር ሉክ ሰንጠረዡ እዚህ ጋር እናሰፋዋለን ኦኬ say for example what are the cumulative frequencies you guys last what about the cumulative frequency the cumulative frequency is እዚህ ጋር አራት ጽፋላችሁ 4 እና 10 14 አሁን ባርገዚህ ጥቅም ከአንድ እስከ 4 ያሉት እዚህ ውስጥ ናቸው ያሉት that means the first the second the third and the fourth items are here when you are arranging the items in an increasing order of course arranged and አሁን ባርገዚህ ከአምስተኛ እስከ 14ኛ ያሉት እዚህ ውስጥ ናቸው 11 ሲደመር 3 17 which is the total number of students so ከ15 እስከ 17ኛ ድረስ ያሉት ዳታዎች እዚህ ውስጥ ያሉት good now what about the class marks class mark so the class mark xi is what how ለባርጎ class mark እዚህ ጋር እንጽፋለን the class mark of this one 5 ሲደመር 15 5 ሲደመር 10 15 15 ሲካፈል ለ2 7.5 class mark is nothing the average of the upper class limit and the lower class limit አሁን የዚህኛው ክላስ ይሄ ፈርስት ክላስ ነው ይሄ ሰከንድ ይሄ ደግሞ ሰርድ ክላስ ነው ሶስት ክላስ ነው ያለን this is the first the third class this is the first class this is the second class and this one is what the third class so for the first class the upper class limit is 10 and the lower one is 5 for this one the lower is 10 the upper is 15 for this class the upper is 20 the lower is what 15 ስለዚህ አሁን የዚህ ክላስ ማርክ ማለት የሁለቱ አቨሬጅ ነው 5 እና 10 15 15 7.5 10 እና 15 25 25 ለሁለት ሲካፈል 12.5 15 እና 20 35 35 ለሁለት ሲካፈል which is 17.5 ማለት so these are the class marks አሁን እነዚህ ምንድናቸው class marks ናቸው so let's find the mean አሁን the first task will be finding the mean of this data የዚህ ሚን እንፈልጋለን የዚህ ዳታ ሚዲያን እንፈልጋለን and የዚህ ዳታ ሞድ እንፈልጋለን ማለት okay so let's find the mean you know that for group data mean is given by what mean is summation of look so mean for group data is given by what summation of fi times class marks xi okay በክላስ ማርክ ነው የምናባዛው ኖርማል and group ቢሆን ኖሮ በእያንዳንዱ over summation of what fi this is the mean for what the mean for group data so እያንዳንዱ ክላስ ማርክ በምን እናባዛለን that means here look አሁን እዚህ ጋር ተመልከቱ ይሄ እያንዳንዱ ክላስ ማርክ the class mark fi times the class marks እያንዳንዱ ክላስ ማርክ በፍሪኩዌንሲው እና 4 ከዚህኛው ክላስ ማርክ ጋር 10 ከዚህኛው ክላስ ማርክ ጋር 3 ከዚህኛው ክላስ ማርክ ጋር እናባዛለን ምን ለማግኘት fi times xi ለማግኘት so fi times xi means 4 ሲባዛ 7.5 which is 30 10 ሲባዛ 12.5 which is 125 and 3 ሲባዛ 17.5 which is 52.5 አሁን ምን አገኘን ምን አገኘን? እያንዳንዱ ክላስ ማርክ በምን አባዛን? በፍሪኩዌንሲ አባዛን። ምን ለማግኘት ነው? ሚን ፎር ግሩፕ ዳታ። አሁን 11ኛ ክፍል እየሰራን ነው ማለት I'm revising grade level on the way. Okay, so አሁን fi times xi አገኘን። then summation of this እነዚህን እንደምራቸዋለን ማለት ነው። so their summation is what? Summation of xi xci is what? የነዚህ ድምር 30 ሲደመር 125 ሲደመር 52 ነጥብ so which is 30 እና 125 155 52 ነጥብ so which is 207 ነጥብ 5 ቼክ አድርጉት እናንተ now what is the mean? The mean is that summation divided by the sum of the frequencies. So the mean of this data is given by this one, summation of fi xi divided by summation of that fi which is 207.5 ሲካፈል the total number of the frequency is 17. So which is 12 times 12 point something, no? So check that. So we have got that the mean is 12. So what is the mean deviation about the mean? አሁን the mean deviation, look, the mean deviation about the mean ማለት ምን ማለት ነው? The mean deviation about the mean ማለት ምን ማለት ነው? ይኸው summation of fi, look. So summation of that fi times absolute value, of course, each of the class markers xci minus what? The mean that we have got 12.8 minus 12 point. That mean deviation will be what? fi, the first frequency is what? 4 times absolute value of the first class mark is what? 7.5 minus 12.3 plus. And the second class mark is what? The second class mark is the frequency is 10, of course, times absolute value of 12.5 minus 12. Okay, plus, and the third frequency is 3 times absolute value of what? The class mark is 7.5 minus 12. This will be divided by what? The sum of the frequencies, which is 17. እናንተ አሁን የቀስ እያላችሁ ስሩ። ከ7.5 ላይ 12 ሲቀነስ ከ12.12 ሲቀነስ so እኔ አሁን በካልኩሌተር ሰርቼው አስቀምጣለሁ። እናንተ ግን ቀስ እያላችሁ ስሩት። so 17.5 ሲደመር 3 ሲደመር 15 which is 15 እና 33 so 30 which is 37.7 divided by 17 so which is 2 point approximately, of course. check አድርጉት እናንተ። ስለዚህ አሁን ለዚህ group data, the mean deviation about the mean for this group data is what? 2.20. 2.20. Now let's calculate the mean deviation from the median. First we have to calculate the median. So remember that the median for group data is given by the lower class boundary of the quartile class or the median class, of course, now plus n over 2 minus the community frequency before that median class over the frequency of that median class times I. The formula is given like this. The lower class boundary of the median class, median class, n over 2 minus fb over fk times, of course, I. Okay, so first let's calculate this n over, what is our n? Our n is 17, so n over 2's item yet no የሚገኘው. What's our n? Our n is 17 over 2's item, so which is the 8.5 item, alright? ከአንድ እስከ 4 ያሉት ዳታዎች እዚህ ውስጥ ናቸው ያሉት። እሺ ከዛ ከ5 እስከ 14 ያሉት እዚህ ውስጥ ናቸው ያሉት። 5ኛ 6ኛ 7ኛ 8ኛ 9 በሙሉ. So the 8.5 item ነው የሚለው which is this class now, which class? The second class. The second class. So our median class is what? The second class. ስለዚህ ሚዲያን ክላሳችን ይሄ ነው ማለት ነው። Okay, now so አሁን የሚዲያን ክላሳችን ምን እንፈልጋለን? የሚዲያን ክላሳችን ክላስ ባውንደሪ ለታችን ለሎወር ክላስ ሊሚቱ 0.5 መቀነስ ከላይኛው ደግሞ so for this one, for the second class, the class boundaries are what? ከ10 እስከ 15 የነበረው ከዚህኛው 0.5 እንቀንሳለን which is 9.5 ከ9.5 እስከ 15.5 ይሆናል። So the lower class boundary of the median class is 9. That means the value of BL. So the lower class boundary of the median class is given by what? 9.5. The cumulative frequency before the median class, CFB. CFB ማለት the cumulative frequency before the median class or the pre-median class ማለት pre-median class cumulative frequency of the pre-median class ማለት okay so ከሚዲያን ክላስ በፊት ያለው cumulative frequencyያችን ነው ወስደው this is the cumulative frequency of the median class is 14 so the cumulative frequency before that class is which is 4 which is 4 okay FK means nothing the frequency of that quartile class ነው አሁን እኛ median class quartile ማለት Q1 Q2 እና Q3 ናቸው ልባሉ Q2 ማለት median ማለት right so FK ማለት የሚዲያን ክላሱ frequency the real frequency ማለት so የዚህ ክላስ frequency ማለት ነው 10 ነው which is so FK is what which is 10 ነው 10 ነው ማለት the frequency is 10 I means the length of the class interval or the size of the class ይሄ ዩኒፎርም ነው ለሁሉም እኩል ነው ባለፈ እንደነገርኳችሁ ታን ግሩፕ ስታደርጉ ወይም ፍሪኩዌንሲ ዲስትሪቢዩሽን ስታዘጋጁ ዩኒፎርም ክላስ ሳይዝ ነው የምታደርጉት እያንዳንዱ ክላስ 5 ዳታ ነው መያዝ ያለበት 6 ዳታ ነው መያዝ ያለበት 7 ዳታ ነው መያዝ ያለበት የሚለውን በአግባቡ እኩል መሆን አለበት አሁን ከ5 እስከ 10 ያሉት እዚህ ናቸው ማለት 5 6 7 8 9 10 ያሉት በሙሉ እዚህ ውስጥ ናቸው so the class size of this class is what 6 the class size is 11 6 ስለዚህ 6 ናቸው the class size is what 6 ነው ማለት so that now look so the median is still now we have been calculating what the median okay so the median of this group data is given by BL that means BL is the lower class boundary of the median class which is 9.5 plus okay n over 2 is the number of frequency divided by 2 which is 8.5 of course minus CFB the cumulative frequency before the median class is which is 4 over the frequency of that class is 10 of course times the length is 6 እናንተ ቀስ እያላችሁ ስሩት ምናልባት ቁጥር ስጽፍ ምናምን ልሳሳት ስለምችል እናንተ በጥንቃቄ ደጋግማችሁ ስሩት anyway so this is 9.5 plus 8.5 minus 4 is 4.5 so 4.5 times 6 of course divided by what 10 so that will be 9.5 plus 4.5 times 6 is what so 4.5 times 6 is 27 divided by 10 is 2.7 so this is 9.5 plus 2.7 is I think 12. So the median of the data is given by so if you remember a median so if you remember ቅድም ከሰራነው ጋር which is the mean of also ከሚን ጋር እኩል አይደለም so አሁን ሚኑና ሚዲያን እኩል ሆኑ ማለት እዚህ ቅድም ለሚን የሰራናቸው ካልኩሌሽኖች በሙሉ mean deviation from the mean የሰራነው calculation is working for what the median so median ስንታገኘን the median is 12 of course what we have calculated for mean ስለዚህ አንድ አይነት ስለሆነ የምናገኛቸው የምናገኘው ውጤት አሁን mean deviation from the median የምናገኘው ውጤት which is the same as mean deviation from the mean ነው ስለዚህ ፎርሙላ አስቀምጥላችሁና ካልኩሌሽኑ ራሱ ስለሆነ so mean deviation from the median is given by what so summation of that fi absolute value of each of the classes minus what the median here divided by what summation of fi so that will be አሁን እያንዳንዱ frequency ነው የምታባዙ ለመጀመሪያ አሁን 4 ነው አይደል 4 ሲባዛ absolute value of the first class mark is what 7.5 minus 12 okay plus the second one is what the frequency is what 10 times absolute value of 12.5 minus 12 any of course plus and 3 of course times 7.5 minus 12 then divided by what that is 7 ስለዚህ አንድ አይነት መልስ ነው የምናገኘው ቅድም የሰራነው ስለሆነ ሁለት ጊዜ አንሳም which is I think 2.20 check አድርጉት so this is the mean deviation from what the median አሁን the mean deviation from the mode ነው የሚቀረን ማለት the mean deviation from the mode your first task is identifying the modal class right አሁን modal classአችን ማን ነው the modal class is nothing the class with the highest frequency ማለት modal class ማለት አሁን ልባል median class ማለት n over 2 item የያዘው class quartile class ማለት kn over 4 item የያዘ ነው decades kn over 10 item የያዘ ነው percentile kn over 100 items የያዘ ነው so median ማለት n over 2 item የያዘ class ነው modal class ማለት ደግሞ the class with highest frequency ማለት with the highest the class with the highest frequency okay the class with the highest frequency so the class with the highest frequency is what frequency on answer which is the second class which is what the second class so remember that the mode for group data is given by the lower class boundary of the modal class plus delta 1 over delta 1 plus delta times the length of the class interval delta 1 means the difference between the frequency of the modal class and the pre-modal class and delta 2 means the difference between the frequency of the modal class and the post-modal when the class after the modal class this is the formula so BL BL means the lower class boundary of the modal class our modal class is second class so lower boundary actually man no 9.5 and delta 1 look mode for group data is given by BL plus delta 1 ማለት the frequency of the modal class minus the frequency of the class before the modal class delta 2 ማለት the frequency of the modal class minus the frequency of the after the modal class so delta 1 is equal to what delta 1 ማለት የሞዳል class frequency ሲቀነስ the frequency of the pre-modal class delta 1 ማለት frequency of look frequency of modal class minus frequency of pre-modal class so which is what frequency of modal class is 10 minus frequency of pre-modal class is 4 ከ10 ላይ 4 ሲቀነስ which is 6 ነው ማለት and delta 2 means nothing frequency of modal class minus frequency of what post-modal class so delta 2 is nothing frequency of modal class minus frequency of post-modal frequency of modal is known which is 10 minus post-modal is 3 so which will be what 7 and the length of the class in the I is what I ማለት ያው length of the class interval ነው which is uniform ብያቸዋለሁ ስንት አይተም እያንዳንዱ ላይ እዚህም ላይ 6 ነው so which is what 6 ነው ማለት so now the mode is given by what so the mode is given by BL which is 9.5 plus delta 1 is 6 over delta 1 is 6 plus delta 2 is what which is 7 of course times what 6 this is 9.5 plus 6 times 6 36 divided 6 plus 7 is I think 13 so which be 9.5 plus 36 I think 2. So which is 2.77 around ከፈለጋችሁ 2.8 ብላችሁ መውሰድ ትችላላችሁ አልጠየቁ ስለምትችሉ በሁለቱንም በ2.77 በ2.76 በ2.8 እየሰራችሁ ምርጫ ላይ አፕሮ በጣም የሚቀርበውን ማድረግ ነው so that will be 12.2.7 I think which is so the mode is 12.27 now let's calculate the mode the mean deviation from the mode so the mode is what 12.27 now mean deviation from the mode is given by what summation of that fi, absolute value of xi minus the mode, okay? So from each of the class markers, you just subtract what? The mode over summation of fi. ስለዚህ አሁን ይሄ ምን ይሆናል ማለት ነው? The first frequency is 4 times absolute value of 7.5 minus 12.27, of course, plus the second frequency is 10 times 17.5 minus 12 point what, which is 27, of course, plus 3 times absolute value of plus 3 times 7.5 minus 12.27, of course, divided by what? The sum, summation of the frequency, which is 17. So እናንተ ቀስ ብላችሁ ከዚህኛው የቀንሳችሁ ከዚህ የቀንሳችሁ በእያንዳንዱ ፍሬኩዌንሲ አባችሁ this, so you just finally ስንት ነው ማምጣት ያለባችሁ? which is 2.18. ይሄን ማምጣት አለባችሁ 2.18። ቀስ ያላችሁ ስሩት እኔ በካልኩሌተር። so መጨረሻ ላይ 2.18 you have to bring. so the mean deviation from the mode is given by what? So look now. አሁን ተመልከቱ. The mean deviation from the mean is 2.20. The mean deviation from the median what? 2.2, of course, equal. And the mean deviation from the mode is what? 2.18. So the mean deviation when we compare to the range, look the advantage. አሁን advantage እና disadvantage መለየት መቻል አለባችሁ. The advantage of mean deviation is that when we compare it with that of the range, it is not affected by the maximum and the minimum value. It is not affected by the extreme values. አንደኛው ጥቅሙ በኤክስትሪም ቫልዩዎቹ affected አይሆንም. right? ከእያንዳንዱ ቫልዩ ነው deviationን እየለካ ያለው. so it is not affected by the extreme values like that of what? range. And it considers each of the values from the central values. That means it considers the deviation of each of the data, each of the numerical values from the central values like the mean, the median, and the mode. ስለዚህ የእያንዳንዱን ዳታ አሁን ሬንጅ ምንድን ነበር ያልነው? ኤክስትሪም ቫልዩዎቹ ብቻ ላይ ነበር ፎከስ ያደረገው። ሚድል መሀል አካባቢ ያሉትን ዳታዎች ትቷቸዋል ነበር። አሁን ይሄ ኮንሲደር አድርገዋል የመሀሎቹንም ማለት ነው። እያንዳንዱ ዳታ ከሴንትራል ቫልዩስ ከሚን ከሚዲያን እና ከሞድ ያለው ዲቪዥን ስለሚለካልን so it is better than what? the range. The disadvantage of mean deviation is that it violates the rule of algebra. አሁን የእያንዳንዱ ዲቪዥን ስንፈልግ ቅድም አይታችሁ እንደሆነ አብሶሉት ቫልዩ ውስጥ ነው ያስገባነው። ኔጌቲቭ የሚመጡትን ፖዚቲቭ አድርገን ነው በጉልበት የወሰድነው። ስለዚህ ምን ቫዮሌት ያደርጋል? የአልጀብራን ህግ ቫዮሌት ያደርጋል ማለት ኔጌቲቭ የሚሆኑ ቫልዩዎችን ምን አድርጎ ወሰደ? ፖዚቲቭ አድርጎ ወሰደ ማለት ነው። so it violates the rule of the algebraic sign by just using that absolute value. Negative valueዎችን consider አላለ. But mean deviation is much better than what? range. Good. The fourth absolute measure of deviations are variance and what? Standard deviation. Variance and standard deviation. So what is the variance, right? The first one is what is the variance, which is of course denoted by the square of this sigma thing. It is the average of, look, it is the average of the squared deviation of each value or each data from where? From the mean. So variation is nothing. The average of the squared deviation of each data from the mean ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ ከእያንዳንዱ ዳታ ላይ ሚንን ቀንስና ከዛ the whole square እናደርገውና የዛንን average መውሰድ ማለት which is very simple. So variance is given by what? So summation of each of the data x minus bar xi minus the mean ከእያንዳንዱ ዳታ ላይ ምን እንቀንሳለን? ሚን እንቀንስና then the whole እናደርገዋለን square እናደርገውና divided by what? The number of the data. If the data are group data ከሆነ ደግሞ ምን ይሆናል? Variance for group data is given by summation of the frequency fi times so the class marks. አሁን እዚህ ጋር እያንዳንዱ ዳታ ነበር የወሰድነው። አሁን ግን የእያንዳንዱ ክላስ ማርክ እንፈልጋለን። so So xi ከእያንዳንዱ ክላስ ማርክ ላይ ምን እንቀንሳለን? ሚን እንቀንስና then the whole square divided by summation of what? The frequencies ማለት ነው። ቅድም እንደሰራ ነው። So እያንዳንዱ ፍሪኩዌንሲ ከእያንዳንዱ መጀመሪያ ክላስ ማርክ እንፈልጋለን። ክላስ ማርክ ከፈለግን በኋላ ሚን እንፈልጋለን for a group data. Then ከእያንዳንዱ ክላስ ማርክ ላይ ሚን እንቀንስና the whole square divided by what? Summation of the frequencies. And standard deviation is nothing, the positive square root of what? The variance. Standard deviation is nothing, the positive model. So standard deviation is given by the positive square root of what? That's variance. So እነዚህ ቁጥሮች እነዚህ ፎርሙላዎች ፎርሙላ ራዲካልስ so this is the square root of what? Summation of xi minus x by the whole square over what? N. So the positive square root of the given variance is called what? You call it is what? Standard deviation. አሁን እስቲ ለዚህ ዳታ ለዚህ ግሩፕ ዳታ ቅድም ለሰራነው ዳታ let's find the standard deviation and the variance of. አሁን ምንድነው የምናደርገው? ልብ አድርጉ። ሚን አለን። what is the mean? the mean is 12.20. ልብ አድርጉ። አሁን ኦልሬዲ የሰራነው ስለሆነ ነው። ሌላ ዳታ ሲሰጣችሁ ግን እናንተ እዛችሁ ጋር ክላስ ማርክ ትፈልጋላችሁ፣ ባውንደሪ ክላስ ትፈልጉና ከዛ you just find the mean of that group data ማለት ነው። አሁን ሚኑ ስላገኘን ስለዚህ አሁን ምን እናደርጋለን? ከእያንዳንዱ ክላስ ማርክ ላይ ምን ትቀንሳላችሁ? ሚን ትቀንሳላችሁ። ቅድም ፈልገናል፣ እያንዳንዱ ብለን ፈልገናል። አሁን ምን ማድረግ ነው? እነዛን ስኩዌር እናደርግና you just take the square of that. ስኩዌር ታረጉና ከዛ ለቶታል ነምበር ኦፍ ዳታ that means the summation of the frequencies ለ17 ስናካፍለው variance ይሰጠናል። So let's do the variance and standard deviation of the grouped data that we have already done here. So for this one, of course, as an example, so variance is given by what? Summation of that fi into xci minus the mean, the whole square of course, which is fi. ይሄ ማለት እኮ look, this is f1 times x1 minus the mean, the whole square of course, plus እያለ ይቀጥላል ማለት ነው። Okay, so that will be what? f1, the first frequency is 4 times the first class mark is 7.5 minus the mean is what? 12.80, the whole square ታደርጋላችሁ plus ሁለተኛው ላይ the frequency in the second is 10 times and the class mark is 12.5 minus 12.80, the whole square. አሁን ከቅድሙ ላይ ስኩዌር ብቻ ነው የምታደርጉት። ኦልራይት ቅድም mean deviation from the mean from the median ስንሰራ plus the frequency is 3 times what? The class mark is 7.5 minus 12.20, of course, the whole square divided by what? The whole frequency fi, which is 70. ስለዚህ ምን ታደርጋላችሁ? ከዚህ ላይ ትቀንሱና ስኩዌር ታደርጋላችሁ። ከዛ ከዚህ ጋር ታባዛላችሁ። ከዚህ ላይ ትቀንሳላችሁ፣ ስኩዌር ታደርጋላችሁ። መጨረሻ ላይ እኔ እንግዲህ ሰርቼ የመጣልኝ 3.2 ነው። ይሄን አምጡ ቼክ አድርጉት። The standard minus the variance is this and the standard deviation is what? The square root of 3.2. እናንተ ቼክ አድርጉት። አሁን የስታንዳርድ ዲቪዬሽን እና የቫሪያንስ ጥቅማቸው ምንድነው? አንደኛው ፎርሙላቸው ሪጅድሊ ዲፋይንድ ሆኗል። ጉድ። ሁለተኛው ጥቅማቸው ደግሞ እያንዳንዱን ሚን ነው። እያንዳንዱ ዳታ ከሚን ያለው ርቀት ምን ያህል እንደሆነ ሜዠር ያደርግልናል። ኦኬ፣ ስለዚህ ፎርሙላው ሪጅድሊ ዲፋይንድ ሆኗል፣ ነው ፕሮብሌም አትሆን። ሁለተኛ እያንዳንዱን ዳታ ከሚን በምን ያህል ርቀት ላይ እንደሚገኝና ያን ስኩዌር እያደረገ ነው የሚሰራለን። እነዚህ ሁለት ጥቅሞች አሉት። The disadvantage is that አንደኛ ኮምፕሊኬትድ ነው። The formula for variance is ያው እንደምታዩት ነው። ከእያንዳንዱ ላይ ሚንቀንሰን ስኩዌር አድርገን በፍሪኩዌንሲ አባዝተን ምናምን ነው። So the formula is complicated. That one is one of its limitation ወይም ዲስአድቫንቴጁ ፎርሙላው ኮምፕሊኬትድ ነው። ሁለተኛው ደግሞ ስኩዌር ስለሚያደርግ እዚህ ጋር አይታችሁታል። ከሚን ያለው ዲቪዬሽን ይፈልግና ከእንደገና ስኩዌር ያደርጋል። ስለዚህ ስኩዌር አደረገው ማለት ቫልዩ ምን እያደረገው ነው? ወደ ኤክስትሪም ቫልዩ እየወሰደው። እነዚህ ሁለቱ ሊሚቴሽን ብቻ ነው ያለው። መጽሐፋቸው ያሉ ጥያቄዎች በሙሉ ስሯቸው ፎርሙላው አንድ አይነት ነው። መቀነስ፣ መደመር፣ ማባዛት፣ ማካፈል ስለሆነ ስሯቸው። እኔ አጭር መረጥኩበት ምክንያት because my blackboard is small. So we have already discussed the absolute measures of dispersion. Now it's the right time to discuss the relative measures of dispersion. The second measures of dispersion is that the relative the relative measures of what? Dispersion. The relative measures of dispersion. When this relative measures of dispersion, as you remember, the absolute measures of dispersion measures in the same unit like that of the units of what? The data. Okay? ከዳታው unit of measurement ጋር በአንድ አይነት unit ነው absolute measures of measure የሚያደርጉት። But in the case of relative measures of dispersion, they are independent of the unit of measurements. So since they are independent of the unit of measurements, this relative measures of dispersion might measure two or more different distributions, right? ሁለትና ከዛ በላይ የሆኑ የተለያዩ ዲስትሪቢዩሽኖችን ቫሪያብሊታቸውን በሪሌቲቭ ሜዠርስ ኦፍ ዲስፐርሽን ተጠቅመን ምን ማድረግ እንችላለን? ሜዠር ማድረግ እንችላለን። So this relative measures of dispersion includes coefficient of range, coefficient of quartile deviation, coefficient of variation and coefficient of mean ናቸው። Okay? So ፎርሙላቸው ለመያዝ እንዲመቸን አጫጭርም ስለሆኑ ለእነዚህ የሪሌቲቭ ሜዠርስ ኦፍ ዲስፐርሽን ፎርሙላ በሰንጠረዥ አንድ ላይ ሰመራይዝ አድርጌ ላቀርብላችሁና አሁን መጽሐፋችሁ ላይ ተበታትኖ ሲመጣ ግራ እንዳይገባችሁ ሰመራይዝ ይደረግ። ኢትስ ቬሪ ሲምፕል። ኤግዛምፕሎቹ ቅድም የሰራናቸው ኤግዛምፕሎች አሁን Q3 ፈልገናል፣ Q1 ፈልገናል፣ ሚዲያን ፈልገናል፣ ስታንዳርድ ዲቪዥን ፈልገናል፣ ኦል ፈልገናል። እነዛ ቁጥሮች እዚህ ውስጥ ያስገቡ መስራት። So relative measures of dispersion say coefficient of range for ungrouped data, it is the largest value minus the smallest value over the largest value plus what? The smallest value. Largest value, smallest value. For grouped data ከሆነ after you have arranged that frequency distribution containing the class boundary and the complete frequency, then this coefficient of range for group data is the upper class boundary of the highest class minus the lower class boundary of the lowest class over the upper class boundary of the highest class plus the lower class boundary of what? The lower class. Look at the example ላይ ሰራነውን 9.5 something ላይ ያገኘነዋል። ያቺን እያስገባችሁ then መስራት ነው ማለት ነው። coefficient of quartile deviation, it is for group data and group data ያው አንድ አይነት ነው። ምክንያቱም Q3 እና Q1 ስትፈልጉ ለግሩፕድ እና ለእንግሩፕድ ብላችሁ ነው የምትፈልጉት እዛች ጋር right? So in both grouped and ungrouped data, for coefficient of quartile deviation is Q3 minus Q1 over Q3 plus Q1. ሁለቱም አንድ አይነት ነው። Q3 እና Q1 ለግሩፕድ እና ለእንግሩፕድ ዳታ ብለን የፈለግነው ቁጥር አለ፣ ያቺን ማስገባት ነው ማለት ነው። And the coefficient of mean deviation about the mean ከሆነ then the mean deviation will be divided by what? The mean. Mean deviation, coefficient of mean deviation about the median ከሆነ mean deviation will be divided by what? The median. And mean deviation, coefficient of mean deviation about the mode ከጠየቀ ደግሞ mean deviation about the mode divided by what? The mode ታደርጋላችሁ። Okay? ይሄ በደንብ ግልጽ ይሁንላችሁ። አሁን mean deviation from the mean deviation from the median, mean deviation from the mode ብለን ፈልገናል። Okay. Now, coefficient of mean deviation from the mean ካለ about the mean ካለ ያን ያገኘነውን mean deviation በmean እናካፍላለን። mean deviation about the median ካለ በሚዲያን እናካፍላለን። mean deviation about the mode ካለ ደግሞ ለሞድ እናካው። ቅድም ያገኘነው mean deviation about mean, about median እና about mode አለ። about mean ለሚን ማካፈል about median አለ። And the coefficient of variation is nothing which is standard deviation divided by the mean multiplied by what? 100. Standard deviation ያገኘነው አለ ለሚኑ ታካፍሉና በስንት አባዛላችሁ? በመቶ አባዛላችሁ ማለት። ስለዚህ አንድ አይነት ነው ኤግዛምፕል ትይዙና ሁሉንም ከሰራችሁ በኋላ ከዛ በኋላ የተለያየ ኤግዛምፕል እየወሰዳችሁ ፎርሙላውን እንዲያዝላችሁ ምን ማድረግ ነው? ፕራክቲስ ማድረግ ነው። Now let's discuss the frequency graph or frequency curve. The frequency curve or frequency graph, of course. So by using measures of central tendency, the mean, the median, and the mode, it's possible to sketch the graph of that distribution using x and y axis. In the y-axis, we use the frequency, and in the x-axis, we use the variables. So there are three situations. That means when the mean, the median, and the mode of a given distribution or a given data are the same, mean, median, and mode እኩል ሲሆኑ ሶስቱም እኩል ሲሆኑ then in that case the graph of that distribution will be symmetric. So the first case 1 is when if the mean and the median, the mean, the median and the mode are equal. ሶስቱ እኩል ሲሆኑ mean, median የተሰጠን distribution ላይ ሶስቱ mean, median እና mode እኩል ሲሆኑ so the graph will be what? The graph of the distribution will be what? The graph of the distribution will be symmetrical ይሆናል። Alright? Symmetrical. Like እንደዚህ አይነት ግራፍ ነው የሚሆነው ማለት ነው። Okay? This is the frequency, the y-axis, these are the variables. So እኩል ስለሆነ አሁን ምን አይነት ግራፍ ነው የሚሆነው? እንደዚህ አይነት ግራፍ ይሆናል። እንደዚህ አይነት ግራፍ. So mean, median እና mode ምንድናቸው? እኩል ናቸው ማለት። So the graph is symmetrical ማለት ነው። ግራፉ እንደዚህ አይነት symmetrical ግራፍ ነው ማለት ነው። Right? ግራፉ እንደዚህ አይነት symmetrical ግራፍ ነው። So in this case, mean is equal to median is equal to what? Mode ሲሆን ግራፉ symmetrical ግራፍ ነው። Well, if the mean, the median and the mode are different, የተለያዩ ከሆነ ግን then the graph is asymmetrical. The graph is what? Asymmetrical. Case 2, if they are not equal, that means if the mean, the median and the mode are not equal, then the graph is said to be asymmetrical or skewed graph ብለን እንጠራዋለን። If mean is not equal with that of the median and not equal with that of the mode, mean, median እና mode ግን እኩል ካልሆኑ then automatically the graph is what? The graph is what? Asymmetrical ነው ማለት ነው። Okay? Asymmetrical. That means not symmetrical ማለት. That means not symmetrical ማለት. Not symmetrical. That means skewed ነው. Okay? Skewed graph. So, which is skewed? That means the graph might be skewed to positive direction or skewed to negative direction. X እና y-axis ላይ y-axis እንደ frequency, x-axis ደግሞ እንደ variable እንጠቀምና ስለዚህ if the mean, the median and the mode are not equal, እኩል ካልሆኑ ስለዚህ ግራፉ might be skewed to positive direction or might be skewed to negative. እንደዚህ አይነት ግራፍ ነው። Look, for this one, ለዚህኛው ሁለት ሲቹዌሽን ብንወስድ ለምሳሌ if the mean is greater than say the median and greater than the mode, ሚኑ ከሚዲያኑ የሚበልጥ ከሆነ ሚዲያኑ ደግሞ ከሞድ የሚበልጥ ከሆነ then the graph is what? The graph is skewed. The graph is skewed positively. The graph is skewed positively to the right. ግራፉ positively to the right of the x-axis ማለት ነው። That means እንደዚህ አይነት ግራፍ ነው ማለት። Look, እንደዚህ አይነት ግራፍ ነው ማለት. So the mean is greater than the mode, the mean is greater than the median is greater than the mode, so that the graph will be digakat. እንደዚህ አይነት ግራፍ ነው ማለት. Suppose you have mode, suppose you have median, and suppose you have mean. So ግራፉ አሁን ይሄ ምን ሆነ ማለት ነው? So positively skewed ማለት. So the graph is positively skewed. That means the graph is skewed to the positive side of what? X-axis ማለት ነው። ወደ positive x-axis ምን ያደርጋል ግራፉ? skewed ያደርጋል ማለት ነው። Right? If the second situation for this one, if the mean is less than the median and the median is less than the mode, that means if the mode is greater than the median is greater than the mean, then automatically the graph is skewed to the left. To the left. That means negatively skewed. Negatively skewed means the graph is skewed to the negative x-axis. The negative x-axis direction skewed again. The positive x-axis skewed again. That one, in that case, the graph is skewed to the negative. That means there's a graph. Okay. So suppose this one is the mean, this one is the median, and this one is what? The mode normal. So the graph is skewed negatively In this case, the graph is skewed positively. In this case, the graph is what? Symmetrical. Symmetrical. አሁን ለዚህኛው ግራፍ ለምሳሌ ዝም ብዬ ኤግዛምፕል ልሰጣችሁ። say for example እንደዚህ አይነት ግራፍ ይሰጣል። አሁን እዚህ ጋር እንደዛ እንደዚህ አይነት ግራፍ ይሰጣችሁ። ኦኬ ግራፉ ስትሰሩት እንደዚህ አይነት አሁን ይሄኛው ለምሳሌ ከ10 እስከ 20 ይሄኛው ከ20 እስከ 30 ይሄኛው ከ30 እስከ 40 እያላችሁ ብትሰሩ then አሁን ግራፉ ምን አይነት ግራፍ ነው? this graph is what types of graph it is? it is symmetrical graph ነው ማለት ነው right? so symmetrical graph ያለው እንደዚህ አይነት ግራፍ so አሁን ሰማራይዝ ስናደርገው እስካሁን የወሰድናቸው ኤግዛምፕሎች እነዛ ግሩፕድ ዳታ አንግሩፕድ ዳታ ኮሙሌቲቭ ፍሪኩዌንሲ እና ቫሪዮላቸው ተጠቅመን ኤክስ አክሲስ እና ዋይ አክሲስ ተጠቅመን ግራፋቸው እንስራ ብንል ሚን ሚዲያን እና ሞድ እኩል ከሆነ ሲሜትሪካል የሆነ ግራፍ ይሰጠናል። ሚን ኢዝ ግሬተር ዛን ሚዲያን ኢዝ ግሬተር ዛን ሞድ ከሆነ ፖዚቲቭሊ ስኪውድ የሆነ ግራፍ ይሰጠናል። እንደዚህ አይነት if the mean is less than the median is less than the mode ከሆነ ደግሞ ኔጌቲቭሊ ስኪውድ የሆነ ምን ይሰጠናል? ግራፍ ይሰጠናል። so in the above discussion what we have done is that we have determined the skewness of the given distribution by using what? Their graphs. Using that measures of central tendency, mean, median, and what? Mode. But if we use measures of central tendency and the standard deviation, mathematically, it's possible to determine the skewness of the given distribution. So mathematically, there are two ways of calculating the skewness of the given distribution. Okay? So mathematically, በሁለት መንገድ የአንድን distribution skewness determine ማድረግ እንችላለን። ምናምን measures of dispersion እና standard deviation together. So mathematically we can calculate by using Carl-Pearson's coefficient of skewness and Bowley's coefficient of skewness. So mathematically, the skewness of that distribution can be calculated by using Carl-Pearson's coefficient of what? Coefficient of skewness and Bowley's coefficient of what? Skewness. So mathematically, for a given distribution, its skewness can be calculated by using Carl-Pearson's coefficient of skewness and Bowley's coefficient of what? Skewness. So this Carl-Pearson's coefficient of skewness, which is denoted by, of course, alpha, the Carl-Pearson's coefficient of skewness, simply, it is called Pearson's coefficient of skewness. So it is denoted by this alpha, which is Pearson's coefficient of skewness, which is 3 into the mean of the distribution minus the median of the distribution over the standard deviation. So Carl-Pearson's coefficient of skewness, the formula is given by alpha, which is of course denoted by alpha. So alpha is equal to 3 times out. ከሚን ላይ ሚዲያን ትቀንሱና በሶስት አባዝታችሁ ከዛ ለማን ታካፍላላችሁ? ለስታንዳርድ ታካፍሉት የምታገኙት የስኪውነስ ሜዠርመንት what you call it is Pearson's coefficient of skewness ነው። known statistician of course Pearson, a known statistician, he calculated this formula. So alpha is equal to 3 into mean minus mode over standard deviation. What you call it is the Pearson's coefficient of skewness. ስለዚህ ምንድነው የምታደርጉት? አሁን ሚን ካልኩሌት አድርገናል። ለእያንዳንዱ ኤግዛምፕል ሚዲያን ካልኩሌት አድርገናል፣ ስታንዳርድ ዲቪዬሽን ካልኩሌት አድርገናል። ከሚኑ ላይ ሚዲያን ትቀንሱና በሶስት አባዝታችሁ ለማን ታካፍላላችሁ? ለስታንዳርድ ዲቪዬሽን ማካፈል ማለት ነው። ኦኬ አሁን አልፋ ማለት 3 ታይምስ ሚን ማይነስ ሚዲያን ኦቨር። አሁን ልብ አድርጉ። if alpha is greater than 0 የምታገኙት የአልፋ ዋጋ ፖዚቲቭ ከሆነ then the distribution is positively skewed to the right ማለት ነው። positively skewed ነው ማለት ነው። when alpha is greater than 0. if alpha is less than 0, that means የምታገኙት 3 ሲባዛ ሚን ማይነስ ሚዲያን ኦቨር ስታንዳርድ ዲቪዬሽን ሰርታችሁ የአልፋ ዋጋ ኔጌቲቭ ካገኛችሁ then that is negatively skewed ነው ማለት the distribution is negatively what skewed if alpha is equal to 0 alpha 0 ከሆነ ሚና ሚዶና ምን ማለት እኩል ሆነ ማለት so if alpha is equal to 0 then automatically that is symmetrical ማለት that is what the graph the distribution is what symmetrical ስለዚህ አልፋ ፖዚቲቭ ከሆነ ፖዚቲቭሊ ስኪውድ ነው that means እንደዚህ አይነት ግራፍ ነው ማለት ነው ኦኬ እንደዚህ አይነት ግራፍ ነው if alpha is negative then that is negatively skewed graph ነው እንደዚህ አይነት ነው ማለት ነው and if alpha is equal to 0 then the distribution is what symmetrical ነው ማለት ነው when Bowley's coefficient of skewness is given by which is denoted by of course it is denoted by beta Greek letter beta so the Bowley's coefficient of skewness which is beta is given by Q3 plus Q1 minus 2 times the median right the median over Q3 minus Q1 ስለዚህ አሁን እዚህ በሙሉ ካልኩሌት ያደረጋቸው ናቸው ልባሉ አሁን Q3 is the third quartile plus the first quartile minus 2 times the median over the third quartile minus the first quartile so the Bowley's measures of skewness is given by the formula the Bowley's coefficient of skewness or the Bowley's measures of skewness is given by Q3 plus Q1 minus 2 times median over Q3 minus Q1 Q3 አትሰራላችሁ Q1 calculate እናደርጋለን median calculate እናደርጋለን then the interpretation is the same the interpretation look if beta is 0 then it is symmetrical ነው ማለት ነው symmetrical if beta is greater than 0 then positively skewed and if beta is less than 0 then it is negatively what negatively skewed ነው ማለት is negatively skewed ነው ማለት negative አሁን ልባሩ ከአብሶሉት measures of dispersion ጀምራችሁ እስከ relative measures of dispersion then this is skewness using measures of central tendency ግራፉ ስንሰራ ሶስት አይነት ግራፍ እናገኛለን most probably ሶስት አይነት ግራፍ እናገኛለን symmetrical positively skewed and negatively skewed and this skewness using the mean mode median or these measures of center particularly the mean and the median and that standard deviation the Pearson's coefficient of skewness and the Bowley's coefficient of skewness Pearson's coefficient of skewness is given by 3 into mean minus median over standard deviation. If positive, positively skewed. If negative, negatively skewed. If 0, symmetrical. Similarly, the Bowley's measures of skewness, which is Q3 plus Q1 over 2 into median over Q3 minus Q1, of course. And if 0, symmetrical. If less than 0, negatively skewed. And less than 0, positively skewed. So let's see, and the group data was to know the absolute measures of the relative measures. Let's see, example እንሰራለን